Navigating Now. My name is Norm Ralph. I am a co-founder and partner here at Thoughtium. Really excited to be here at the table today. For those of you who are joining, thanks for joining live. For those of you who are coming in on our platforms with YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, welcome. Really excited to create the space. I mean, this is our platform, our opportunity to have this unique intersection between building business, building community, and the opportunity to really talk about those topics that matter most. And just absolutely thrilled to have with me at the table Susannah Dellinger. Susannah is the CEO of Bright Beauty Collective. She's also a great friend, a fellow founder, and there's so much about our paths that I'm excited to unpack with her today. For those of you who are also joining, this is also an opportunity for you to just step up and out of the day-to-day. We talk a lot about just the moment to arrive. All of us are very busy, and I'll say all of us are craving community and connection. And recently, Susannah and I had a chance to really pause in the midst of just what felt like a very chaotic 2021 and really get connected. So this episode is really about, again, the power of the collective, the opportunity to be in true partnership and to do the big work that matters most. So with that, I want to welcome Susannah to the table.
Hello, how are you?
Great. It's so good to see you. We were texting back and forth, and there was just so much energy about this opportunity. And you and I have had such an amazing relationship over the last 15 to 20 years, which seems incredible. But really this opportunity now, and maybe this new season, this next chapter, and you even just coined it as just a bright season. There's so much to be just thoughtful and thankful for in terms of like where we're at. So just curious for you, as the new year turns and you're thinking about 2022, like how are you coming into today's conversation?
Excited, like coming in so excited, so pumped up, where I was just looking back at something that popped up in, my photo memories, how your phone reminds you of something. And today, a year ago, I did one of my first Instagram lives with a founder in the beauty space that I really looked up to, because I didn't have this agency yet. And I just wanted to start to create this community because I was at home and just thinking, as a child, like, I'm just going to have this interesting conversation. And that's one of my very original clients, who's one of my long-term, like, I love her so much now, but it was so funny that it came up, like, today is the 1-year anniversary when I first even started talking to some of the founders and clients that we now have this amazing, thriving business with. So it's insane to me what can happen in 12 months, even more insane what can happen in 30 days, because we'll get into it, but the time that you and I spent together and our Small Business Strong Summit has completely unlocked the collective to go to another level. So just 2022, we are very excited for what it has in store.
Great. Well, why don't you talk just a little bit about Bright Beauty Collective, your vision? And I think, again, you have such a unique proposition where you really were intentional about that word collective. I've seen it. And again, as you think about the world where we sit today, I would say business and even just life feels different. Again, people are looking for maybe your professional life, or even the way that you're building community, building collaborations, the way that you're connecting with individuals wants to feel different or differentiated. So talk to us a little bit about your vision for Bright Beauty Collective, and again, what that collective really means in the word.
Absolutely. So it was really born out of an idea of a love for smaller but wonderful up and coming indie beauty brands. And how can they compete on a larger scale? How can we go to the biggest arenas and really take some market share and make a big impact? And when I was talking to founders in that space, what they would say is what's stopping them is a lack of resources, like not even knowing who to talk to, what to ask for, even along with a lack of funds. It's very, very expensive to go at this scale. So this thought process has always kind of been in the back of my mind, coming from the conventional beauty world that I did for about 17 years, is what if we took that and had a collective of these brands where they could share in access to one of the top teams for sales, one of the top teams for marketing? What if we could have them where they all came together? But even on a larger scale, what if we had it where it was resource sharing, where they really built a community and they were able to have this idea of we're more powerful together with the same mission than we are apart as competition. And so that whole idea is what gave birth to it.
Yeah, it's something I've been paying attention to as well, is just this concept of, perspective on abundance versus competition. It'd be easy for you to look, particularly as a small business, and look and say, the person to my right and my left is actually competing against me. And so I want to protect my IP, or I want to try to do it all myself. But to your point, when you come with this idea of, what if I was surrounded by just great people with great energy that have the same experience that I do, that I could in tough times pick up the phone and be like, have you experienced this? Or I need your help. Yes. So talk to us just a little bit about that dynamic of, again, like, you're so close to the founders. Like, what has that journey been like for you to be like in it with them?
It's been amazing. And it's what the happiest kind of accident that we've seen as being the biggest takeaway has been that community that's been created among these founders that didn't know each other before the collective. And we realized that no matter what the level, what the scale of the company was, these founders had the same problems that they were facing. They had the same feelings of isolation, the same feelings of, are we in this alone? The same crazy things with, supply chain, with their third-party logistics center. They were all going through the same fires, but they didn't feel like they had anyone to talk to who really got it, that was in that same seat. So coming into the collective was this kind of sense of like, oh my gosh, I can pick up the phone and now talk to this other founder. And they've formed these incredible friendships together. They'll call me and they'll say, oh, I just talked to Lisa and she gave me advice about how to do this type of study, or I just called so-and-so and they introduced me to a new third-party logistics center. And they've become really great friends. And I know you and I are going to talk a little bit later, but it's given us ideas on how to really increase that community together, because that's what we found out of everything that founders were missing the most, was that sense of community.
It's such a unique intersection when you just consider, like, rewind 2 years ago, it would have been very easy to look at an individual brand or product and their positioning in the marketplace as almost like very individual, very one-off. For you to look at almost this intersection of how do we bring unique businesses and brands together and then position it as a collective, as a group, does feel very different. I mean, if I were to even think back to, my corporate days, we weren't looking for unique partnerships and to be part of a collective. But again, I just feel like there's been a seismic change in the way business is done, and individuals are looking for both business positioning, but also the opportunity to do it with others.
Yeah, I obviously completely agree with you, since that's what we're doing. But what I really found too was that retailers, it's a lot of what our business is working in the retailers for the founders, is that the retailers are loving it too, because for them, if we send in support from, maybe it's an artist that's visiting into an Ulta or into a Credo, or into a Sephora, they're able to get so much more information about than just one brand. Our people can also talk about this brand and this brand and this brand, because they're all part of the same family. And so it's made these visits to the retailers that much more impactful, to the point that one retailer actually was just quoted. My current client told me that she was told by the buying team, why don't you just go work with the collective, because they're already in there doing it anyway. And I was like, yes, let's do this together. But we work very, very diligently to make sure that the brands have the same missions, as well as that they match up together too. And so we keep that in mind now that the collective has become such a strong group of founders with strong relationships, that will this be a fit? And it's one of our guiding principles when we look at our relationships that we have set for 2022.
And this will be a surprise for many who know me, but I'm not necessarily a subject matter expert in the beauty industry. However, I will say, as you mentioned Credo, and with our time together, we have a Credo across the street. And it's so ironic that it's been here for a year. And as you talked about just your different partnerships, I'm like, yeah, we happen to have a Credo across the street. And so just the timing of, again, our time together, of you building this collective, and maybe even just awareness of small businesses looking to find those unique collaborations. We've been fortunate here in the West Loop in Chicago. We call it our 6-block radius. Many of you have heard Anthony talk about this. I mean, it's been foundational, and not from a business revenue standpoint, not from a contract generation. Again, it's the support, it's the ideas, it's the energy, and it's everything. I mean, it's the absolute fuel. And so when I look at, we have great relationships that just, they span business, they span the transactional, they span the immediate, but they're yet that sense of abundance, that sense of community. We feel it here in the West Loop, and it sounds like you all are doing that internationally with the collective.
Yes, we are. We have clients in Portugal, Singapore, Dubai, Canada. We are definitely international. But I think you're right. I think these past 2 years as well has really pulled forward that need to have, as the collective, to have people in it with you. We're so isolated at home. We've gone through so much of not being able to have our daily interactions like we used to, that yearning has grown so much stronger. So I think the timing for that concept for all businesses, I think it's a really great idea to have that somehow tied in, no matter what industry you're in. If you can bring in community, if you can bring in a sense of collectiveness together, we're all going to be stronger. Like that's the human condition. We're meant to be in groups. Like that's how we're born, right? Like that's what we're born to do, not to be solo. We're meant to have that group support.
Yeah, and I'll say for me, and this will start to transition into our time together, which I just can't wait to talk about this. We started noticing, we'll call it in the August, September, October timeframe, of a real opportunity to start to see some convergence again between maybe what used to be more of our business relationships or our clients, but also our community, our friends, our family, and just a real opportunity to start to think bigger, to start to think about, an orientation towards true service. What is that going to look like? How is that going to just really amplify some of the great work that we've done? And how do we potentially even give back? And even for myself, it's easy on a day-to-day basis to be really focused on running a business, servicing your clients, continuing to grow. There's just a huge responsibility set. At the same time, you've got to look inward and say, what is it that maybe I need as a founder, as a leader? And I think all of us can relate to that. The last 2 years have just put pressure on us in ways that we couldn't have expected. And again, I think there's this opportunity for us to pause and ask ourselves, what is it that I need? And then what is it that I need potentially with a community to surround me? So talk just a little bit about, even just maybe the place of where you were sitting at the end of 2021 with just this growing business, this, this growing responsibility set. Yeah. And you just asking yourself like, wow, how did I just get here? And what do I do next?
Yeah, that was a really interesting time because it wasn't the plan to actually have the agency now. The plan was to wait. I have a daughter, and the plan was to wait until my young daughter was in school. And it just sort of started to happen. And I listened to the universe. I was like, okay, let's do this. We'll do 1 client, maybe 2 clients. And then all of a sudden I blinked and we had 12 clients in the span of 6 months. And it was just me. Thank you. But it was just me. And I was so in it, just trying to operate it and just go from like Tuesday to Wednesday and survive, that I wasn't able to really see the bigger picture. And that was where I was starting to feel the pressure was, how do I scale this? I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I had that life. I have no interest in that life anymore. And I really want it to be something that is sustainable to scale from my time wise, but is also to make an impact for these incredible brands. But how on earth do I do this? Because now we have so much that grew so fast, and I can't duplicate myself as much as I would love to just clone. We can't do it. So it was definitely a tipping point of trying to figure out, like, I told this to you, I felt like I had built myself a job, like a nice job, but how could I now turn it into a fully functioning operating company?
Mm-hmm. And I just, even the word you used was like the agency. And I remember the first time you and I got on the phone, and I got lit up by that. And you said like, I built myself a job, and like all of a sudden now I've got a company and I've got to like really think through this. Yeah. And I was also just at maybe a nice like personal inflection point where I was really craving the opportunity to be in partnership, and even just some of the learnings I had as a founder over the last 5 years. There's just been a lot of like ups and downs and opportunities for me to say like, I've been there. I can empathize with you. Like that's normal. And so, as I was partnering with our chief of staff, Amanda, she just brings this really unique perspective of what it's like to run alongside a founder or a co-founder who is expected to know it all, is expected to wear the armor, is expected to say like, good news, everything's taken care of. And you know what that's like. It's like you're running 100 miles an hour. You're like, what am I doing? Like in the morning, I'm like, we're going to take this thing to the moon. In the afternoon, I'm like, I think we're closing the doors. And it's just like the ups and downs are just, they're wild. And I just remember just having an opportunity and saying, you know what, even for myself, it's like, I just want to be there and be in it. And I remember just texting you and being like, by the way, I just booked my flight. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And you and I had an opportunity to sit down, and we talk about this a lot with, here at Thought Team, both internally with our clients, is the opportunity to create the space. It's the opportunity to pause, to really reflect, and then to have the opportunity to dream and dream big and have some like challenging thoughts and potentially change your perspective, change your energy. And to me, I mean, it was such a reflection for you and I to be able to do that, to spend 2 days like in it, in the work together, like truly in partnership. I didn't have the answers. Again, I don't know a lot about the beauty industry, but what I do know is what it's like to have somebody who's there and says, you know what, I got you. Let's do this. And so let's talk just a little bit about, that 2-day experience. Just from your perspective, just share a little bit about what that was like.
Life-changing. I would use that as the word. It was life-changing. I mean, it was so funny when you first texted me that I had just been thinking, I'm going to reach out to Norm and see if he can do a FaceTime with me to just go over a couple questions because, that was just in that moment of just having that overwhelming. And of course, I look up to you as such. You have built this incredible, incredible company and you're so smart. And so you're like, I'm going to come to Charleston. I love the universe. Thank you, universe. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but that was wonderful. Thank you, universe. And it really was just, even from the very beginning, the first thing you asked me was like, how are you really doing? And what do you need? And it's like, I don't know. Like, how am I really? And I think I told you, like, I need my daughter to get into preschool. Like, that's the first thing that I need to have happen, And we just had from that moment on, like, just this safe space, this understanding. And you said, like, I've got you, let's look at this. And it was such an unlock on so many levels. But one of the biggest things for me was when we did the big board exercise, and it was stop thinking small. Just because you're a small business does not mean that you have to think small. You can think big. Mm-hmm. And also you don't have to do work that feels heavy. And that was one of your things, like, is this a frowny face or is this a smiley face? Like, how does this make you feel? It's like, oh, I don't want to do frowny face work. That's not something I'm interested in. You're like, okay, let's pivot that. So, I mean, just those exercises, even going on to like looking at, it's so funny. You did one part where it was like, okay, what is your manifesto? What does success look like for you? And of course, revenue is a part of it and team was a part of it. And you're like, community. And I'm like, I don't know what community success looks like. And then I sat back and was like, well, that's ridiculous. The whole name of my company is about the collective, but I had been so in the day in and day out of it that I had forgotten the larger mission. And we spent a lot of time together really leaning in on how I can pour into that collective. And that was just, from there on, it was like, let's go. Let's just go. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing even to see your energy shift. And I remember that 4-box exercise and we started talking about community and you literally looked at me with a blank stare and you're like, I'm not even sure. And it's so easy because again, like you're going 100 miles an hour, like revenue is very important. Your team, you're trying to figure out how to build your team and how to actually support that team. And as you started just even tapping into, again, like your vision, your grounding, like what is it about the collective that I believe so firmly in, particularly in your relationship with these founders. It's not just a product or service, like your job is to like really enable and amplify the vision in these brands and products in ways that maybe these other founders can't even see for themselves.
Absolutely.
And when I saw you light up that way, I'm like, this is where Susannah's magic is. Like, This is where you need to be pouring yourself into.
Yes. And then, I mean, 1,000 times yes. And then when we did the exercise about, my Q1 and Q2 goals, and you'd say, is this a Susannah job or not a Susannah job? I was like, oh, not a Susannah job. I need to bring on team to help me do that so that I can focus on the magic of what makes us different. And that was such a big turning point for me and the start of building this really incredible team that I'm so excited to now have.
Yeah, and I'll say what I also noticed was, one is it helped that maybe you and I did have a personal relationship, but to your point, and I just want to emphasize this, before we started talking about the blocking and tackling of your business, we spent a considerable amount of time just talking about like, what does Susannah need? And I remember very vividly this year, Amanda looked at me, particularly in just real struggle, and she said, Norm, what do you need? And with a blank stare, I just sat there and I was like, I don't even know. Like, I haven't even thought about what is it that I need to like ground myself, to be here, be present, and be at my best. And so that's something that we, I would say from a shared experience perspective, allowed you and I to say, again, we can dream to the moon, but if you're depleted, if you're coming in and you're in struggle, it's going to be hard for you to really see that. And I think once we identified a couple of very easy wins where you're like, I could ask for that, I could shift this, I could reimagine this. And then it's like you almost built this base. And like you said, we had this shared view of, I'm not coming in to say you're doing this right or wrong. And this is part of even, again, like my practitionership. And I want to acknowledge that, like, for me, this was some of the most fun and rewarding work that I've done, is to just watch you go through this progression and just build confidence. And each session, it was like there was just light bulbs going off, and you're like, I'm texting right now and I'm hiring somebody, and I'm telling this person that we're no longer going to be doing this. Like, it was so action oriented, and there was such belief in what you were doing. I was so proud to see you just embrace this entire experience.
It was, like I said, it was absolutely incredible to have that guidance. And a big part of it too was to look at it, is this the work I want to be doing? I can talk about the work I want to be doing, but then putting it up on the board, where am I really spending my time? So I can tell myself that I'm doing X type of work, but then when I really look at it, it's like, oh no, I'm doing this other type of work. And that needs to change. So, I mean, it did lead to some really tough conversations internally about, this isn't the type of work that we're doing anymore. But it's been incredible. My founders have been amazing. They've been beside me the entire time. They have been bringing in their friends in the industry as other founders, recommending me. And it's just been amazing to see them take ownership of the collective as well, because they want to see it grow just as much as I do, which has been phenomenal.
Yeah. And again, I just want to acknowledge, like, because you were in this position of confidence, because you started to find your magic, it's allowing others to then draft and even feel from that. So again, imagine you trying to force the collective or not be able to give in the way that you have over the last 6 to 10 weeks. Maybe the collective doesn't quite take off. Maybe the connections the founders are making aren't there because you're so buried in the heavy work and the revenue. So I just think, again, for all of us, and I'm even speaking for myself included, is just to acknowledge, where am I really spending my time? Whether you're a founder, a leader, a mom or dad at home, it's like, where am I really spending my time? How am I showing up? And like, what am I going to do to shift it? Because we all have the opportunity and agency to do that. And you've got the entire team here at Thought Team just so fired up about, honestly, the last 6 to 10 weeks, because you've taken this and you've taken it to the next level. So let's talk about, for you, like, what has happened coming off of this? Because this wasn't a one-time event. This wasn't a great opportunity for you and I just to get connected and for me to fly into Charleston. There has been like significant progress made. So talk to us about the updates.
Well, let's look at the real. Like, the first night after you and I went through all this, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, oh my God, I don't know that I can do this. Like, I think I did not set this up correctly to be able to afford to scale. And I was in like tears, and you came in the next morning. I was like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I don't know. And you held my hand and you walked me through it. And it was completely, I was like, okay, I think I can see it. And then what made me really be so motivated to now get to where we were was like, okay, if I'm going to go ahead and invest in the help that I need, well, then we better go get some more clients that are going to fit this new model. And I was very lucky that, after we met, I went ahead and I reached out to some people from my previous life, from my previous corporate world. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. Guess what? You now work here with me too. I didn't even ask them. I was like, you're doing it now too. Yay. But they were wonderful. And I brought on a team of 3 to help in the back end of what we do. We've increased our footprint in the stores. So we grew to a team of now 22, which is just crazy. And we've totally expanded our reach in terms of our national sales teams and the accounts that we cover. So we're now in Bluemercury doors, of course, Credo doors, Ulta doors, Sephora doors, and Nordstrom doors, along with Detox Market. So we're in some major national retailers that we weren't in the previous 30 days. And part of your work with me was like, okay, this is, this world, go conquer it. It's like, okay, let's go conquer it. And we have. So it's been really exciting.
And even a tie back to, so last week we had Kevin Lobo on here, and it was really about making informed decision making. Yeah. And so when you think about, you don't necessarily need big data and precision data, but for you it was the ability to see your business on a board and to be able to make the right decisions, the right decisions in terms of your offerings, the way that you were thinking about your business, even your team. There was so much about your team that you looked at and you're like, wow, I actually need to double the size over here. And it's
Yes.
like, if I don't, then like this is actually the input or the funnel that feeds everything else. So I've got to make some really smart decisions. But it's like without those, you're just continuing to be busy and in the day to day, and you're not able to be strategic. So I just think that again, it's just such a reminder for all of us to have the tools available or create the space and have the opportunity to step out, look at your business across a couple different dimensions and make some big decisions. Like, you're going to take risks, but let's make some informed risks. And for you, it's been great to see this momentum that's been carrying, coming off of just the clarity that I really feel like you have.
Thank you so much. And it's been amazing because I have the big board. Everything you did for me is literally above my desk, as you know, on my wall. So every day I'm looking at it and it is informing the work that I do. Does this fit what I need to be doing? And it's a reminder for me to work on my business and not as much in my business anymore, and to make sure that I'm delegating where I need to delegate, because nobody else is going to drive this ship.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit about maybe where you sit today and some of like what's top of mind. So for you as a founder, for you as an owner and operator, particularly as you're bringing in new team members, what would you say is that next focus point, that next priority, that next maybe challenge that you're seeing?
So what we're working on now as a team is bringing our retailers that we work with into the collective. So really strengthening the relationships with the retailers, which is something I think pretty different from what most brand agencies do. And we're really working on unique and fun, and we'll be sharing more soon, but exciting ways to really have them part of our collective to help them as well. We're actually helping some of these retailers increase their community presence, doing some interesting outreach to grow kind of their 6-block radius, to steal from Thoughtium as well. And it's really fun work to see the founders themselves get to really be involved in how the retailers work and what the retailers are looking for. Because what I see is that a lot of times on the brand side, they think one thing, like, oh my gosh, the buyers must be thinking this, this, and this, and the retailer side. And the retailers think one thing, but if we can bring them all together and make everybody realize we're working on the same exact thing, then it creates magic at the store level experience.
Great. How about with the founders that you're working with today, or the brands that you're working with today, similar to you and I being able to strike this type of partnership? Where's the Susannah magic? Where are you being able to like run alongside them and allow them to either like hold the mirror up for them and just say like, you got this, or even help them maybe see the belief that they're not able to see from where they sit?
That's a wonderful question, because I feel like that's the work I started doing almost right away after being with you. Is I wanted to help unlock them on the same level. And it's funny because it's like, take my own medicine, right? But I can see it for them, and to really instill in them that sense of confidence that they focus on their own magic and to really own their own unique point of difference versus trying to be something so general. Because so many times in our industry, our founders think, oh, I have to be this general so that I can attract all the possible retail outlets, versus really understanding their unique selling point and owning that niche. And when that has happened, now that I've had that time to really kind of have these half-day sessions with my clients, magic is absolutely blooming, and they're finding their exact perfect retail partner matches. And we're making those retail partnerships very much deeper. We're making them much deeper and much stronger. And I'm thinking of one founder in particular. She cried after a session with me, and she was like, I finally feel like I know what my brand is versus what I've been trying to make my brand. And that was just, I'm sure you probably feel the same way, right? But it's like, that was such like a moving moment. And then kind of just from a offering standpoint, one of the things that we have changed up too is we used to offer placement services to help our help our partners get into retailers, but there's only so many brands we can bring on to do that with at once. And we really wanted to be able to help more brands, again, to make a bigger impact together. So we are now helping them to understand how to pitch retailers. So we've been having these great new brands really understand that they have the confidence to go forth and conquer, that they don't need necessarily outside help. And we've worked with some really incredible founders. And I love the text messages. I feel like it's the text messages I send you where I'm like, hey, guess what? I just did this. I have founders now texting me like, hey, I just landed this amazing account. Oh my God, so-and-so wants to try my brand. And it's like having, other children out there, like I'm rooting them on. It's a really exciting practitionership that I'm getting a lot of joy out of doing, because now I have time to do that work that I have a team that's doing some of the other work for us.
So tell me something that you've said no to recently, or even for yourself, you're not doing. Because I would say, as somebody who's a high achiever, somebody that's part of a very fast emerging global agency, it's very easy to say yes to a lot.
Yeah.
So it's also hard to say like no, and with confidence be like no, because I need to stay like in my lane, focused in the right stuff. So, give us maybe some advice on what are you saying no to?
I've been saying no more than I've been saying yes this past month. And that's so surprising to me as somebody who wants to just continue to scale. After our time together, I reevaluated the brand relationships that we had and had some conversations about whether or not we were the right fit for that type of brand moving forward, because we really wanted to make sure that everybody was going to get the maximum benefits. However, I had a brand on my dream vision board that you and I did together. And it's like, I'm manifesting this brand. Yes, I'm going to bring this brand in. And I got into negotiations with them and I turned it down, because as much as I thought it was the dream brand, when I got into the nitty gritty, I realized that it wasn't going to be a fit with the collective, that it wasn't necessarily the type of work that we actually excel in. And the old me would have done it anyway, because yes, we can do it. We're good at it. We can do that work, but that's not our magic work, right? So I'm like, okay, let's say no to this, because it'll leave us space to say yes to something that is the magic work. And as soon as we said no to that, one of our current clients came forward and wanted to talk about a new project that would take a lot more of our time to help them with, and was absolutely where we want to spend our energy. And we're like, this is it. This is why we said no to somebody else. So it's very hard to say no, especially when it's like in your mind, like the brand that's going to put you on the map, or the whatever client that you're going to be able to sign a contract with that's going to validate your proof. It's hard to say no to that. But when you have the confidence after spending time with an amazing mentor like yourself of what your agency or what your business is really strong at, then you're like, okay, I can't do myself the disservice, or even do that other brand that disservice, because they deserve to be with somebody who is that perfect fit and is that perfect magic match for them.
Such a good reminder. And I'd say, Thought Team here is also in a very similar space where even as we sat down as a team and started to ask ourselves, where are we truly differentiated? What's the work that we love to do? And how do we continue to organize around that? It's easy to say yes, and all of a sudden you kind of get out wide and you're doing some divergence. And I think sometimes it's healthy to do that. But at the same time, sometimes you got to get smaller to get bigger. And I think, again, just such a great reminder, even for us as leaders, to have the confidence of it doesn't always have to feel like it's the scarcity or the I must say yes. Sometimes that no leads into an even bigger yes from a different space.
Such an amazing reminder. And I would always have thought I needed more clients. But one question you asked me was, what if you could do this with less clients? How would that make you feel? And I was like, that would feel even better from a time perspective. So yes, I like that idea. And I had never even thought of looking at it like that. So that was a huge takeaway for me.
Great. So let's look forward. Look forward into later in 2022, even maybe 2023. Like, what are some big ideas, some big claims you want to put out there of like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you excited about?
So one of the things that I'm really excited about is we are actually taking the idea of the collective, and we are going into a very big retail space as the collective together versus the separate brands. So I can't share yet what retailer it is, but it's a really exciting one. I will share as soon as I possibly can. But that came out of a conversation with somebody that was recently on your podcast with Darren from The Space Between, as well as with you, on like, what if you thought of pitching it this way? And so that's a very exciting concept that we're doing with the agency. And then we also have something fun coming up that the two of us are doing. I don't know if you wanted to share a little bit about that yet.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
So we're going to be really leaning into the community building with the collective and with our founders. And we're going to be doing a Thoughtium and Bright Beauty Collective retreat this spring to really bloom it and go forward with the community and have those relationships just take off. So many of our founders have never met in person, and they're really, 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 really excited to have that opportunity. So I know that when they watch this video or read the email that's going to go out after this video, where I'm telling them about it, they'll be thrilled.
And this is honestly the power of the collective. So when you look at Darren Schwartz, when you look at Amanda Lobo, when you look at yourself, when you look at me, we're all about bringing people together, about, allowing people to really be connected, to dream big. And this is it's such a representation of that. It's like, I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to Darren about her vision for her business. She's in the experience design space. Just the intersection of, Thoughtium, of Bright Beauty Collective, and the space between. I mean, what a unique partnership, and the opportunity for us to say, what would it be like if we could have an experience where these founders not just got connected, maybe in a traditional sense, but had an opportunity to maybe do a little bit of like self-reflection of creating their own space, some potentially healing modalities, the opportunity to talk about business, big ideas, like how could we be in partnership together? Part of that is just getting in a room and getting ideas and getting excited about like, what would it be like? Or all of a sudden you ask a very provocative question. You're like, what if I did have less clients? What if I didn't go right instead of left? And so I could not be more excited about this concept. And I just think, again, the timing of where the world is today for us to have creative partnerships like this, this is the beginning. So again, just really excited for where you're taking Bright Beauty Collective. There's so much about the way that you're engaging your own community. It feels like the beginning. It feels very differentiated. People are looking for ways to find shared experiences, and we couldn't be more excited to be cheerleading and championing you here from the West Loop.
Thank you so much. It means the world, and we cannot wait for this retreat. I mean, I think it's amazing that the universe has brought everybody together, and I think there's a reason why everyone who's going to be a part of it has come forward. And I think it's exactly what we're all looking for 2022. And it's the first of what I hope to be several. So I'm hoping that we'll be doing another one again in 2023.
No question about it. Great. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to wrap us up with a little bit of a rapid fire. So this is going to be some quick questions. It's going to be top of mind, one word, a phrase. So here we go. Right. First thing we want to know is, what are you listening to, or what are you reading?
Oh, I'm rereading Gary Vee, Jab, Jab, Right Hook, because it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And for those of you who know Gary Vee, you can see the clouds in the dirt. Yep. For those of you who don't, Gary Vee, I mean, he certainly has informed a lot of our practices here at Thoughtium, and he's also reinvented himself, but he's stuck true to a lot of his core, despite whether he's in the wine business, in the digital marketing space, or even in the NFT space. So let's say you hopped on a flight tomorrow. Where are you traveling to?
Anywhere. I miss flying so much.
I know that's such a big part.
Probably Hawaii.
Like, where
Hawaii.
Would it be? Hawaii. Yeah, Hawaii seems to speak to you. If you were the star of a play or a musical, what would it be? Oh,
that's such a good one, but definitely Wicked. I love Glinda from Wicked.
For those of you who don't know, she was a theater major. All right, what's maybe a catchphrase that's a Susannah classic, whether it's in your personal life or your business life?
Oh, that's such a good one. I don't know that I have a catchphrase. I need a catchphrase. We need to fix that. I need a catchphrase. Somebody make a catchphrase.
All right, we'll put a pin on it. We'll send it out to the universe as soon as we come up with your catchphrase. I've been getting a lot of flack on my side in terms of a couple of key phrases that I have. What would you say is maybe a hidden talent or a new habit that you're focusing on?
My new habit that I'm focusing on is getting up very, very early before my toddler gets up. So I've been trying to get up at 6 a.m. to have that alone time, but she's been waking up at the same time. So we'll see.
All right. And last question, who would you say is your biggest cheerleader and champion?
Wow, I'm very lucky that a lot of people come to mind when you ask that question. So I would say you, 100%, my husband, my family, and one of my best friends who's a total business baddie as well, named Kathleen. She's amazing. She's the one when
Awesome.
I woke up crying or in tears, stressing out that night. And I texted her at 1 a.m. and she said, "You're allowed to cry for 2 hours, then you put on your pants and you get it done." It's like, okay.
Okay. Well, I just really want to thank you, not just for this episode and our opportunity to connect like this, but honestly, that time together in December was so formative. It was an absolute time for us to be in it, to be there for each other. And it's been so fun for that, not just to be a trip and a one-time event, for it to be the fuel of this new partnership. And you're just doing such amazing work. And we're so excited to see where you're going to take Bright Beauty Collective for 2022 and beyond.
Thank you so much. So love being a part of this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, and that will wrap episode 74. So thanks all of you for joining. Just a reminder, Navigating Now, we're here every Thursday, 3 o'clock Central, an opportunity to really create the space, talk about those topics that matter most. And again, this unique intersection between building community and building business. There's just so much there. There's so much richness, and just really excited on a week over week basis, not just to be here at 3 o'clock, but also to bring you these types of leaders, these types of stories, and really seeing this in action. Next week, really excited about this one, episode 75, Nick Rodriguez. As we mentioned earlier in the episode, our 6-block radius, Nick has been just a foundational person for myself and for this community. He's going to be talking about small business transformation. His business really opened at the forefront of COVID. And so he's got so much to talk about in terms of how he's navigated and just the way that he's really looked at his business, his community, and just really been a big part of, again, this 6-block radius. And so with that, we'll see you next week. Thanks everybody for joining.